Get ready for a deep dive, everybody. This time, we're headed straight into one of Brazil's most enduring mysteries, the lead masks case. Think 1966, Rio de Janeiro. 2 men found dead on a hilltop. And if that wasn't strange enough, the only thing's weirder than those homemade lead masks covering their eyes, the cryptic clues scattered around them.
And that's where we come in. Today, we're going to be your guides through eyewitness accounts, official reports, even some paranormal theories. You'll see why this case still fascinates people. Even after all these years, it remains unsolved.
So picture this. It's August 20th, 1966. Crisp, clear winter day in Niterói, just across the bay from Rio. On Morro do Vintém, kind of local hilltop spot, 2 bodies are found. And trust me, they weren't dressed for a casual stroll.
More like dress for a meeting with the president, suits, raincoats. But get this. No signs of struggle, no obvious injuries, just those meticulously crafted lead masks placed perfectly over their eyes. Imagine happening upon that scene.
Talk about a statement. It's like someone ripped the last page out of a detective novel, right? And it gets stranger. Turns out, the victims weren't exactly household names. We're talking Manoel, Pereira de Cruz, and a Miguel José Viana, 2 electronics repairmen from Campos dos Goitacazes.
Yeah, and that's a good hike from where they ended up. Just adds another layer to the mystery, doesn't it? What were 2 repairmen doing so far from home, all dressed up like they were headed for a business meeting on a remote hilltop? And those masks, those suggest a level of planning, of premeditation that goes way beyond your average spur-of-the-moment crime.
It's almost like someone wanted to make sure they were found, but also wanted to keep their identities a secret. And speaking of strange, let's talk about the other things found at the scene. We've got those lead masks, sure, but there was also an empty water bottle, receipt tucked neatly right beside it, a couple of small towels wrapped in plastic, and, wait for it, a notebook with a cryptic message scribbled inside.
And not just any message, mind you. It reads, 1630 be at the agreed place. 1830 swallow capsules, after effect protect metals, wait for mask signal. Chilling, right? Each word is like breadcrumb, but leading us deeper into this crazy enigma.
Okay, now that's got to give you chills, right? It's like something straight out of a spy thriller, except these guys weren't secret agents, they fixed radios. So what's the expert take on all these items?
Let's start with that note. 16.30, be at the agreed place. Okay, this much we know. They had a plan, a meeting, specific time. But where was this agreed place? Then we've got 18.3 swallow capsules. This suggests they were going to ingest something, pills, drugs, some kind of poison. Your guess is as good as mine, the note doesn't say.
And then there's that phrase, protect metals. Protect metals from what? I mean, what does that even mean?
It's probably the most debated part of this whole case. Some folks, they think it's about shielding electronic devices, maybe those lead masks themselves, from some kind of interference. Others, they think it might be connected to a ritual. Like maybe the men thought they were protecting themselves from, I don't know, spiritual or supernatural forces.
Okay, so we've got a mountain of questions already. But before we go too far down this rabbit hole, let's rewind a bit. Back up to the days leading up to August 20th. It's August 17th. Manoel and Miguel, they tell their families they're heading to São Paulo. Work trip, buying supplies, maybe even a new car. Sounds pretty standard, right?
Not so fast, because just a day later, they're spotted, not in São Paulo, but in Niterói. And what are they doing? Buying those raincoats in perfectly clear weather. And get this, they weren't exactly keeping a low profile. Witnesses say they were acting strangely, nervous almost.
And then there's that one witness at the bar, said he saw Miguel constantly checking his watch, like he was anxious about the time. Could that be tied to those specific times in the note, you think?
It's definitely a possibility, but that just brings up another question. Why all the secrecy? If it was just a business trip, why lie about São Paulo?
It's almost like they were trying to keep their movements hidden. But the question is, why? Okay, so we've got cryptic clues, a timeline that doesn't quite add up, and more questions than answers.
Yeah.
This is where it gets really interesting. See, one of the biggest theories about this case connects Manoel and Miguel to something called scientific spiritualism.
Now, before you dismiss it as totally bonkers, remember, it's the 1960s. Brazil's going through massive cultural shifts. This belief system, it combined science and spiritualism, and it was gaining traction. People were fascinated by the idea of using scientific principles to explore, well, the spiritual realm.
So think seances, UFO sightings, that kind of thing.
Bingo. People were experimenting with psychedelics, building machines to contact aliens. It was a time of incredible exploration, both scientific and spiritual. And here's the kicker. Manoel and Miguel weren't just reading about this stuff, they were all in.
Okay, so how deep does this rabbit hole go? We're talking more than just a casual interest in the paranormal now.
Oh, absolutely. When investigators searched their homes, guess what they found? Materials for making lead masks and a whole collection of esoteric books. We're talking contacting spirits, astral projection, the works, and this is where that protect metals line from the note starts to take on a whole new meaning, doesn't it?
You're saying these weren't just any masks,
Right.
that they served some kind of spiritual purpose?
Well, some researchers believe these masks were supposed to protect the wearer from, harmful energies or entities during spiritual practices. Think of it like spiritual safety goggles, maybe, and that protect metals line. Could be about protecting any ritualistic objects they might have been carrying. But of course, without more info, it's all just speculation at this point.
Right, speculation it is, but it definitely adds a whole other layer to an already pretty perplexing case. So we've got a possible motive tied to this scientific spiritualism movement. But why would it lead to their deaths? And what about those lead masks?
So we're back and ready to go deeper into the lead masks case. Before we took a break, we were talking about that whole scientific spiritualism thing, and honestly, the more we dig into this case, the stranger it gets. And that's where even the wildest theories, they start to sound almost, well, believable. Remember how into UFOs these guys were? Manuel and Miguel? Well, buckle up, because there's a theory that connects their deaths directly to those flying saucers.
Okay, I gotta admit, picturing two guys in suits and lead masks having a close encounter, it's kind of hilarious and terrifying at the same time. But is there anything to back that up? Or are we just in the realm of pure speculation here?
I'll be honest, the evidence we have is mostly circumstantial. But there were UFO sightings in the area around the same time those guys died. And don't forget that phrase in their note, protect metals. Some folks think that's all about shielding against electromagnetic interference, which, is often linked to UFO encounters.
So maybe they weren't just into UFOs, they were putting themselves out there trying to make contact.
That's the theory some people are running with. They even think those masks, they built them to protect their eyes. Like from a bright light, maybe, or some kind of energy blast coming from a UFO. Like a homemade version of those sci-fi goggles.
So we got possible alien encounters. What about other explanations, though? I mean, surely there are more theories floating around out there.
Oh, there are always more theories. And some of them, they take us even further into the unknown. I'm talking secret societies, rituals, even whispers about a link to ancient cults.
Hold on. Now we're talking secret societies and ancient cults. I'm already picturing dusty old libraries, mysterious symbols. This is getting good.
It does sound like something out of a movie, doesn't it? But remember, Manoel and Miguel, they were deep into that whole world. Esoteric knowledge, spiritual exploration, the whole 9 yards.
Right, those books the police found at their places. For those of us who don't speak mystic, what makes those books so important to this case anyway?
Well, these weren't exactly your self-help books. These were about hidden knowledge, secret practices. In this case, the books were focused on contacting spirits, astral projection, understanding hidden dimensions. It's not light reading, that's for sure.
Not exactly. So how does this all tie back to their deaths?
It's a bit of a leap, but some folks believe that maybe, just maybe, they were trying out some risky ritual, something they read in one of those esoteric books, the times in that note, the capsules they were supposed to swallow. It does make you wonder if they had a plan. Maybe they wanted to contact something, travel to a different plane, I don't know, unlock some hidden power, who knows?
And those masks, hold on, were those like spiritual blindfolds for a supernatural trip?
Hey, that's one way to look at it. Some people think those masks, they were meant to shield them from harmful energies or, scary entities during these supposed rituals. Or maybe it was simpler than that. Maybe the masks were there to block everything out, help them focus, reach some higher state of consciousness.
It's definitely interesting to think about, even if it does sound pretty out there. But you're right, we got to remember the time period here. The 60s were a wild time, lots of change, social upheaval. People were searching for answers, for meaning. Some were even looking for an escape. And they were finding it in some pretty unconventional places.
Exactly. And for Manuel and Miguel, well, maybe that search led them down a dangerous path.
So we've got UFOs, we got secret rituals, and a whole lot of speculation. Any closer to understanding what really happened on that hilltop? Or are we just as lost as those investigators who found them?
You hit the nail on the head. The lead masks case. It's an enigma, even after all these years. We got puzzle pieces that note the masks, those books, but the full picture, that might be lost forever.
It's frustrating, sure, but also kind of exciting, don't you think? The idea that there are still mysteries out there that we just can't explain.
Absolutely. And even though we might never know what led to their deaths, Just thinking about the possibilities, putting those pieces together, it teaches us something about ourselves, don't you think? About that desire to understand the unknown.
Well said.
Mhm.
But before we get too philosophical on everyone, let's not forget the more, shall we say, grounded theories. What about a robbery gone wrong? Or maybe a personal grudge, something that got out of hand?
Oh, those were definitely possibilities that the police looked into. But here's the thing, there's no motive, no clear one anyway. Then there's that whole bizarre scene, those masks, it just doesn't scream simple robbery, does it? And as for that grudge idea, well, no one's ever come forward. No one's saying they had it out for these guys.
The more we uncover, the less it all fits together, you know?
Exactly. And that there is the million-dollar mystery of the lead masks case. It's a puzzle that just refuses to be solved. It's captivating, fascinating. It makes you think, even decades later.
Well, I don't know about you, but all this talk about clues and mysteries, it's got me wanting to do some more digging of my own. We'll be back to explore the legacy of the lead masks case, what it all means, and why we're still so drawn to the unexplained. Stay with us. All right, we're back. Time to wrap up our deep dive into the lead masks case. We've gone through the evidence, the timeline. Heck, we even went down those rabbit holes of UFOs and esoteric rituals.
And still, the heart of this mystery, it's like, it's just out of reach, you know? Like when you're looking at a painting, you can analyze every brushstroke, debate its meaning till you're blue in the face. But the artist's real intention, that might be lost forever.
It's true. And every time we think we're getting close, more questions pop up.
Yeah.
Like we still don't definitively know what killed them.
Nope. The official cause of death, never determined. Autopsies, they were inconclusive. Decomposition, you see, and toxicology reports, limited by the technology back then. So we're left with this huge gap. Did they accidentally eat something poisonous? Were they exposed to something toxic? Or was it intentional? We're just not sure.
That's true. And speaking of unanswered questions,
Yeah.
those lead masks, they've become synonymous with this case, yet their purpose, just as unclear as everything else.
Absolutely. Were they supposed to protect the wearers from something like some of those more, shall we say, creative theories suggest? Or were they part of something more sinister, meant to intimidate, maybe to hide their identities if it was something more straightforward? Those masks, they're not giving up their secrets easily.
And let's not forget about that cryptic message they left. 16.30B at the agreed place. But where was this place? Who were they meeting? And why all the cloak and dagger? Then there's that whole swallow capsules instruction. What were those capsules? Were they all part of a ritual, like some people believe?
Right.
Or was it something darker? It's like, the more we dig, the deeper this thing gets. Plus, don't forget about those inconsistencies in their story. Why lie to their families about a business trip to Sao Paulo? What were they really doing in the days leading up to their deaths?
It's those unanswered questions that keep drawing people back to this case. It reminds us that even with all our fancy technology and forensic science, some mysteries, they just might stay unsolved.
Almost like this case, the lead masks case, it's become this modern myth, you know, passed down, retold. And every time it seems like there's a new layer of intrigue, more speculation.
That's a great way to look at it. It's ingrained in Brazilian folklore now. Books, documentaries, even fictionalized versions. It's become a story in itself. And in a way, that's its legacy, right? The case forces us to confront the unknown, to question everything we think we know about the world. And ourselves.
Makes you think about all the other unsolved cases out there, doesn't it? The ones that maybe never quite made it to the front page.
Yeah.
The mysteries hiding right under our noses.
Exactly. That's what we can take away from the lead masks case. It reminds us that the world, it's a much stranger, more mysterious place than we often give it credit for. And sometimes the most fascinating mysteries are the ones that leave us with more questions than answers.
I like that. So as we close the book on this deep dive, what's your gut feeling? What do you think really happened to those men?
To be honest, I have no idea. And if I did, it'd be just as much speculation as everything else we've talked about, right? But that's what I love about cases like this. They make you think, make you want to keep searching for those missing pieces, even if you never quite find them all.
That's true. And who knows, maybe someone listening right now, they'll uncover something. A tiny clue, a missing puzzle piece. Something that finally unravels the whole thing. But until then, the mystery, it lives on.
As do the questions and the enduring power of the unknown.
Well said. That's all we've got time for on this deep dive. We hope you enjoyed our look into one of Brazil's most enduring mysteries, the lead masks case. And remember, folks, sometimes the most satisfying discoveries are the ones that leave you wanting to learn more.